across the globe. Any information you need is just one click away. This leads to a world where people feel omniscient, a world where many people think they can know it all. But still, information needs to be contextualized in order to become knowledge. And even knowledge need to be combined with experience to become wisdom. And only through wisdom can one achieve true mastery. It is only through this delicate path, which can only be paved with hard work and mindfulness, that you can truly become master of your own world. Now, here you are, seeking relevant information and incorporating that into the context of motion. Here you are, gathering the first-hand experience of critical thinking, deliberating, contemplating, as well as persuading. Here you are, building wisdom for yourself, and here you are, steadfastly working your way toward true mastery based on careful approach and rational thinking. For this path that you have been walking along so well, I sincerely extend my best wish to all of you. For what you have done and achieved, you should be proud of yourself. Please continue to debate and continue to think for yourself. Thank you. ขออนุญาตพูดเป็นภาษาไทยสักนิดนะครับ ก็เรียนท่านรองอธิการท่านผู้แทนจาก EU ท่านคณาจารย์น้องๆที่เข้าร่วมการแข่งขันโต้วาทีทุกท่านครับธรรมดาผมต้องเรียนอย่างตรงไปตรงมาผมมีจุดอ่อนทางด้านภาษาอังกฤษเป็นอย่างมากไม่มีทักษะด้านการสื่อสารทำความเข้าใจด้วยภาษาอังกฤษที่พูดไปเมื่อกี้นี้ก็คือการอ่านตามสคริปต์ที่เขาเขียนให้พูดกว่าจะอ่านอันนี้ได้ต้องเรียนน้องๆพี่ต้องเดินวนอยู่รอบหน้าห้องประชุมเนี่ยหลาย10รอบเพื่อฝึกซ้อมในการอ่านที่พูดเรื่องนี้ให้น้องๆทุกท่านฟังก็อยากจะบอกว่านี่คือจุดอ่อนของรุ่นพี่ๆจุดอ่อนของบรรพบุรุษรุ่นบรรพบุรุษเราที่มีปัญหาเรื่องภาษาต่างชาติโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งภาษาอังกฤษแต่โลกในวันนี้ถ้าเราไม่ฝึกซ้อมไม่ฝึกฝนให้เรามีความรู้มีทักษะมีความเชี่ยวชาญในภาษาต่างประเทศโดยเฉพาะอย่างยิ่งภาษาอังกฤษก็จะเป็นปัญหากับพวกเราเป็นอย่างมากในอนาคตดังตัวอย่างที่น้องๆเห็นที่อยู่บนเวทีนี้ฝากน้องๆทุกคนอนาคตของประเทศไทยต้องการคนที่มีความรู้มีทักษะด้านการสื่อสารทำความเข้าใจกับชาวต่างชาติหวังว่าน้องๆทุกคนที่อยู่ในห้องนี้จะฝึกฝนแล้วก็เตรียมความพร้อมในเรื่องนี้ให้เป็นอย่างดีเพราะอีกไม่นานเราคงทราบกันดีครับว่า 2558 นี้เราจะเข้าสู่ประชาคมอาเซียนซึ่งภาษาความสามารถในการสื่อสารจะเป็นเรื่องที่สำคัญมากขอให้น้องๆทุกคนได้อย่าทอดทิ้งสิ่งที่ได้ฝึกฝนมาอย่าทอดทิ้งบทเรียนที่ได้จากการแข่งขันโต้วาทีในวันนี้ขอให้นำสิ่งที่ได้ดีๆจากวันนี้ไปใช้ให้เกิดประโยชน์สูงสุดเพื่อจะทำให้พวกเราทุกคนเป็นกำลังสำคัญของประเทศในอนาคตขอขอบพระคุณครับ
Thank you, Mr. Thanawat Ploy-Sopon, Deputy Governor of Khon Kaen. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Anna Beatrice Matang, Head of the Political Press and Information Section of the European Union Delegation to Thailand, up on the stage for a remark, please.
Sawadika. Good afternoon. I should now be talking in Thai, but you will excuse me that I will go on in English, not following the good example of the Vice Governor. Vice Governor, Deputy Presidents of the University of Khon Kaen, speakers and debaters, adjudicators, and dear students, good afternoon. It is a real pleasure for me to take part on behalf of the European Union delegation to Thailand and to wish you a warm welcome to this debate, this year's debate of the European Union Thailand National INTER-VARSITY Debate Championship hosted in Khon Kaen University. This year is the 8th INTER-VARSITY sponsored debate sponsored by the EU in partnership with Thai universities. Since the first debate in 2004, this contest has become the largest English language debate contested in Thailand. This year's debate is still something special and not like the previous one. For two reasons it's special to us, the EU. First of all, because it enjoys the royal patronage of Her Majesty the Highness Princess Mahachakri Sirindorn, which honors the cause of the event as well as the students' efforts and debate experience. One more reason for pride to us is taking the debating culture out of the capital city of Bangkok to the northeast of Thailand, thanks to the good cooperation with the Khon Kaen University. We hope that this first debate sets a precedent for many debates to come to take place outside of Bangkok. This tournament is an important activity for the EU delegation in Bangkok. Firstly, it is a way to provide a nationwide forum for young Thai students to express their ideas and opinions on essential topics affecting their lives today and in the future. It is a way to reach out to many talented and ambitious young students who want to learn more about the EU. And it is also a valuable and enjoyable way to promote critical thinking, constructive dialogue, and a way to open up minds for different viewpoints on specific concepts and issues that are important to us. This mindset is a vital ingredient of a modern, forward-looking democratic society. Tolerance, dialogue, solidarity are also some of the main ingredients that have helped the European Union and its 500 million citizens construct a peaceful and cohesive community after centuries of conflict and war. Last week, the EU has been awarded this year's Nobel Peace Prize for 60 years of promoting peace, tolerance, democracy, and human rights. I dare say that this debate tournament is part of the same cause for which the EU has received the prestigious prize. And with this, I might be anticipating already some of the discussions this afternoon. The tournament, like all previous ones, has been a student-led initiative with 160 students taking part this year from 21 universities and high schools across the country. The increasing number of students and universities taking part over the years is a testimony of the idea's success to promote a vigorous debate and culture in Thailand. Several topics have been covered over the last few days, ranging from democracy, finance, economics, the environment, science and technology, gender and other issues. And we very much look forward to this final round of debate. I hope that the series of debating tournaments held in Khon Kaen over the last few days have nourished critical thinking, intellectual debate, and promoted understanding of the European Union's aims and values. I would like to thank Khon Kaen University for the strong support as well as the hard work that its volunteers and student organizations, debaters have carried out in order to make this a successful championship all over Thailand. I now wish the participants the best of success and luck and enjoyment in this final round. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now I would like to invite, please stay up on the stage. Now I would like to invite the Vice President, the Deputy Governor, and the head of the political, press and information section of the European Union delegation to Thailand up on the stage for a small exchange of token of appreciation. I would like to invite the club advisors and the adjudicators for the final round up on the stage for a group photo, please. Thank you very much. Now it's time that you have all been waiting for. I would like to invite the adjudication core to come up and lead you through the grand finals debate. Please give them a round of applause.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gary, and I'll be the Speaker of the House for today's Grand Final. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce the chair and the panel for today's Grand Final. May I first invite our Honorable Chair, Ms. Anna Beatrice Matang. She's the head of the Political Press and Information section of the EU delegation of Thailand. First panel, we have Mr. Hani Mashanda, the tournament chief adjudicator. Second panelist, we have Mr. Narongpon Sathorn, the deputy chief adjudicator. Third panelist, we have Ms. Kawintra Thiamsai, the tournament's deputy chief adjudicator. Fourthly, we have Ms. Nannapat Unagun, the adjudicator from Mahidol University International College. Next, we have Mr. John Draper, adjudicator from Khon Kaen University. Last but not least, we have Mr. Rom Kenneth Sales, adjudicator from King Mongkut University of Technology, Thonburi. While we are waiting for the debaters from the two teams of the grand final, allow me to walk you through to the process of today's debate. Contesting this round, we have Chula 1 as a government and Chula 3 as the opposition. Before the round begins, I would like to explain the rules of the debate. Each constructive speaker will be speaking for 7 minutes. After the first minute, you will hear one clap. Signaling that the speaker may be asked point of information. At the 6th minute, you will hear one more clap, like this, signaling that the POIs can no longer be made. At the 7th minute, you will hear 2 claps, like this, to indicate that the speaker times is up. At 7:20, you will hear 3 claps as a reminder for the speaker to conclude his or her speech. Reply speeches last 4 minutes and are protected speeches. Hence, no POIs may be asked during the protected time. And now we will be waiting in the exciting moment for the two teams to arrive. On the government side, we have Chulalongkorn University 1. Please welcome Mr. Chayapat Thong Charan. Ms. Apaporn Tang Kitsana Khajon. And Mr. Motoki Laksami Watana. On the opposition, we have Chulalongkorn University 3. Please welcome Ms. Mika Apicha Sakun. She'll be arriving soon. Okay, once again, we have Ms. Mika Apicha Sakun. We have Mr. Tachapon Pechwala and Ms. Nataya Kusuwan. without any further ado, I would like to call this House to order. The motion on the floor before this House is this House believes that the EU rightfully deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. Without any further ado, I would like to call upon the Prime Minister to open the debate.
Hello. Mr. Chair. Madam Chair, the reason we're having this debate today, the reason we're having this tournament today, is that the EU supports peace. The EU supports peace, that it sends its delegates all over the corner of the world to promote that kind of peace. And as a government side today's debate, we believe that the EU has achieved that success tremendously, both regionally and globally. So what do I bring you today, Madam Chair? First of all, I'm going to prove to you how the principles of EU are consistent with the values of the Nobel Peace Prize itself. But second of all, I'm going to prove to you why these values have been strictly adhered to within the EU from its very creation more than 60 years ago. But the opposition side has to prove to us that, well, since they're going to bring us harms, they have to tell us why these harms outweigh the goods to the extent that the Peace Prize cannot be awarded. Because, Madam Chair, we believe that Peace Prize can also be awarded in instances where not concrete success has already been met, but also for its intention and course of action. For example, like when Aung San Suu Kyi was given her Nobel Peace Prize, even though democracy was not achieved yet in Burma. But even furthermore, we still see that in our case, we have had successes in the past for peace, and furthermore, we believe that we have an intent and course of action, bright future ahead of us. First of all, a few definitions first. By EU, we're going to mean by European Union and also its predecessor organizations. What do we mean by that? European Coal and Steel Community, we mean by ECC, EC, all the predecessors of the EU and European Union as its current state, because that's what we believe the intention of the Alfred Nobel Committee Prize wanted to have when they had this award in mind. Furthermore, we believe that by rightfully deserving, we mean by they meet Alfred Nobel's criteria himself. So what were his criteria, Madam Chair? His criteria was this. First of all, he wanted this award to be given to any entity or individuals who, first of all, promote fraternity among nations, and second of all, promote peace congresses. And in our paradigm, we believe that the EU successfully fulfilled those criteria. A few split first. I will be talking about how solidarity integration is important. Second of all, how interdependency among nations prevent wars. And third of all, my second speaker will be talking about international scale of democracy and human rights promotion. Now, moving on to my first argument. My first argument is regarding solidarity and the trend of commitment we're seeing in today's debate and why it's good, right? Integration, Madam Chair. We see the sort of trend of commitment in today's debate. Why? First of all, we see that these countries who join the EU are willing to seize some of their rights, some of their sovereignty in order to become the EU, in order to join the EU, because they believe in the greater benefits. They believe in the potential growth and the potential future bright in front of them. That's exactly why I believe these nations have the best interests of the region also in their minds. But furthermore, on the second level here, we believe that these countries are willing to go through hardships that portrays them the level of commitments they have. For example, Madam Chair, we see Greece. We see the situation in Greece right now, but we don't see any member nations quitting yet. We believe that Germany and all those other nations are willing to commit the resources for the potential growth and benefit of the EU region as a whole, which we believe is extremely important because we value the principles more. And when we're willing to commit to the principles, we support them, Madam Chair. But furthermore, we believe in the continuous effort towards integration of EU. From the year 2000 onwards, right, the EU has expanded dramatically. More than 50% population has been entered, right? What does it mean? It means that the EU value the values of these countries who entered their union. It ultimately portrays that the EU is supporting these values, are willing to work towards the same goal as the countries that have the same values. For example, these countries have the democracy, these countries have to support human rights, and these countries have to have freedom of speech. Yes, before we move on,
Shouldn't the Nobel Peace Prize handed to those who have done or take actions rather than giving it based on weightless words like the matter in the case of Obama's failures to end the war with the Middle East?
Sit down, sir. We believe that 60 years of peace in a continent has been plagued of wars for more than 2,000 years is something that can be considered achievements. Let me remind you that Europe has had 1,600 wars from its recorded history, not to mention the unrecorded ones. Now, let alone to mention how many wars we have had since creation of European Union. Western Europe, we have had 0 war, and that is called success, Madam Chair. Furthermore, I'd like to present the benefits of integration and how this has countered the influence of many wars, right? Madam Chair, in the 1970s, 1980s, at the peak of Soviet Union power, these countries, European Union countries, they have united both economically, socially, and politically. And they were able to counter the influence of the Soviet Union back then because the influence was so great that they were all over the planet. The thing is this, had there been individual nations which were not joined in and unionized, what would have happened? Their influence could have easily reached the point where the influence infiltrates into those countries. And in this debate, we can concede that this kind of influence is bad. Why? Madam Chair, communism supports the destruction of human rights. Communism supports the destruction of freedom of speech. And we believe that the goal of the European Union back then countered those kind of influence and supported peace within those regions. And even more, Madam Chair, during the Soviet collapse, there were predictions that, well, since we have no big enemy, what is the point of having European Union? And ultimately, they predicted that the European Union will collapse. At the end of the day, it did not, Madam Chair. They still unionized. They still united for the same cause. It means that these countries are not only for the short-run benefits, but for the long run in order to promote peace. And European unions have successfully done that, Madam Chair. Furthermore, we believe the European Union promotes the same human rights standard. When we have European Union, right, every country is adhering to the same human rights principle. What does effectively tell us? It tells us these countries have to adhere to the same standards to be in union. Madam Chair, the second speaker will later elaborate on this, but let me just make clear to you, being in the European Union, we support human rights. But furthermore, to my second argument here about how interdependency among nations is good for preventing wars, and it will prove the point regarding peace conquest, right? Madam Chair, when you're in the European Union, you have interdependency among nations. You have the same agreements. Schengen, for example, united foreign policy, for example. These kind of policies have mutual benefits for every country, right? What does it mean? It means that you have vested interest into those countries, and it makes war extremely unlikely to happen. Why? When you see those other kinds of countries, you don't want to invade them. Even though you have conflicts with them, you don't want to invade them. Because at the end of the day, you know the person who will lose benefits and interest is also going to be you. Because you have interest in them, the whole region. If you suffer, if one country suffers, the whole region suffers. So that's why we believe in the theory of promotion. But even in the case that there's going to be conflict, even in the case that there's going to be war, we believe that it will be easier to mediate, right? Because since we have the same identity, same social status, same integration, we believe that it is very much easier that these countries could mediate and disregard the wars. And if you want proof, we can prove to you that 60 years of European Union, we have had the longest period of peace since Pax Romana from the Roman Empire. If this is not enough proof for you, I don't know what is. Opposition, please argue on that. Thank you very much.
I thank the Prime Minister and now would like to recognize on the Leader of Opposition to open the opposition's case.
Hello. Okay. As there are many students and teachers in this room, I'd like to oblige you with this thought. We don't award students preemptively for achievements they have not yet achieved. This is the case of the nomination or the awarding of the EU of the current Nobel Prize, and we think on the opposition case that it was not rightfully awarded. Now, before I move on with my substantives, I have a few rebuttals to make. Firstly, the PM on the government side, opened his case with this example of Aung San Suu Kyi and how she had not yet achieved democracy and yet she was given the award. My response to this is a very different case than the EU, when I will show you how the EU has in fact not even achieved peace in the first place, but when we told you that Aung San Suu Kyi spent a decade or so in jail for the fighting of democracy, showing that she had in fact achieved things. So this example falls on the side of opposition. Now, Bong's case mostly talked about how he showed us how, like, okay, under the current status quo, that these countries within the EU, they're willing to give up their sovereignty and they're willing to help each other out in times of crisis, and this is enough to please sit down, to award them with the Nobel Prize for Peace. We say that there's far more tangible implications of how they have not achieved peace in this region, which I will tackle in my arguments that I will start now. My arguments are this. First, I'm going to prove to you why I'm going to show you how the EU has failed in promoting peace, and that is why we should not give them the award for peace. Secondly, I will show you that even if we were to accept these claims by the government that they are deserving of the peace award, that the peace award, giving them the peace award now is going to lead to even more harms. And thirdly, I'm going to talk about how this in the long run degrades the EU, degrades the award, and degrades those who we've given the award to in the past. But before I move on, I'll take a POI.
Can you please answer me why IPCC International Panel of Climate Change, who hasn't achieved that goal, half of that goals was awarded with Nobel Peace Prize? If that was the case, how can your case stand?
Look, I'm going to show you exactly why. This is just another example of I could argue on that too. I could say that is not legitimate as well, and they still fall on my case. Let's argue why, please sit down, just took a POI from you. Let's argue why on this debate, we shouldn't give it to the EU. They've showed you how, yes, okay, countries are willing to cede up some sovereignty by entering into the EU, but do they realize that they told us the requirements stated by Alfred Nobel that we give the awards for fraternity among nations and the holding and promotion of peace congresses. We don't think on the opposition side that EU has met these requirements yet. When we look at the economic crisis that's going on with the euro and the dissonance this has caused, it has caused the German government to bail out an economically failed Greece. This has made the German population feel alienated, feel that they have been taken advantage of from their government. We see a Greek population which regrets the integration in the first place, which wants to return to a drachma because they claim that the integration in the first place has made their prices rise. We see on the second level a lack in peace and tolerance in the EU on the issue of religion. We see a greater Islamophobia occurring, followed by France's efforts to ban the burqa. There's also a disgraceful pending of Turkey's a secular state, yet 99% of the population believes in the Islamic religion. Their application to being a member of the EU has been denied over and over again, and we see that this is a result of Islamophobia. So tell me how this is peace in Europe. And thirdly, we reject. Please sit down. First, we reject the EU responsibleness in reconciling the conflicts in this region. For example, we see that when there was fire between Bosnia and the European nations, it was NATO that alleviated tension, not the EU. We see that, again, the EU and NATO were the ones to save the genocide crisis in Kosovo. So we see many reasons why they have not achieved peace. On my second argument, we'll argue with them, we'll engage with them now and say that, okay, even if we were to accept the proposition side's erroneous calculations of the EU's achievement in peace versus the failures I have shown you, we still believe that the EU should not be given the prize. Why is that? Because the Peace Prize, other than an award for effort or recognition for peace, is supposed to serve as an impetus for the recipient to continue future efforts in pursuing peace. Awarding the EU the prize is counterproductive to this cause because it's already, please sit down, a duty of the EU to promote peace in the region and secondarily to the rest of the world. Also, in terms of recognition for peace efforts already done, we say that the EU also doesn't require the Nobel Peace Prize because it's globally significant. It's a globally significant in a body that its achievements will be recognized. If it achieves peace, it will already be recognized by the world. We do not need to give them the Nobel Prize in this case. Thus, to summarize this point, thus the potential of the Peace Prize itself remains locked up. It's never unleashed when you give it to when you give the award to an entity that doesn't need it. On the third argument,
before you move on,
please sit down. So what are the harms of awarding a recipient the award so unnecessarily? Number one, it degrades the recipient itself, and in this case, that's the EU. In the case of the EU, it further radicalizes critics of the EU, as a body of peace and development, and it highlights the EU's flaws, right? And in an unjust nature of this award, if it's so obvious that by the average reasonable person is going to be obliged to consider the EU like a corrupt authority demanding unwarranted tributes. We don't want this reputation to fall on the EU. The EU might never intended to give this vibe, but by unnecessarily giving them a peace prize, it automatically curses them with this negative reputation. Now tell me how now the EU is going to gain even allied support in further peace endeavors. We say this hampers their peace process in the future, and as a result of their loss of legitimacy. On a second level, under how it degrades, it degrades the prize itself. It degrades the nomination committee. If the Peace Prize is seen as a political tool and not something that recognizes real efforts, like Aung San Suu Kyi's fight for democracy, she went to jail for it. In promoting peace in our world, people lose their respect for it. Currently, the Nobel Peace Prize is considered the world's most prestigious prize. What does this imply? It implies that the world holds respect for the prize, and we don't want to condemn those who are holding a prize. Let me give you the concrete example again. When Aung San Suu Kyi stands up for something, stands up for democracy against a dictatorial government, the weight of the award, the weight of the prestige is transferred to democracy against the dictatorial government. This puts that dictatorship at a very weak stance. We say this shows the effectiveness of the Nobel Peace Prize when you award it to the right recipient. But we don't even want to risk giving it to the wrong recipient. And that's why, at the end of the day, we oppose the government. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 8 minutes, 30 seconds. I thank the leader of opposition and now would like to invite the Deputy Prime Minister.
If you really take a look at the Nobel Peace Prize right now, we see IPCC, we say IAEA, UN. These are organizations that was awarded with Nobel Peace Prize. But moreover, we're going to tell you the majority of number of Nobel Peace Prize recipients, what happened is they haven't achieved all their goals. But what the Nobel Prize is being used right now is it allows these people to inspire them to make them work harder and achieve even more goals. And that's a stance that we've been really clear since the Prime Minister's speech. We don't want to condemn these people by not providing them with any kind of rewards. When we see that commitment, when we see that determination, especially with the European Union, with the idea of integration. But now, ladies and gentlemen, 3 main rebuttals towards opposition side. On the first rebuttal with regard to the idea of conflict with European Union, on the principle level, there's a reason why Germany is trying its best to bail out these PIGS nation. We think the reason why Germany is paying so much or bailing out this country is because it believes in the commitment it has in the European Union. It believes that it can stay together as a union, and that's a concept of solidarity, that you stay together through thick or thins. That regardless of what's going to happen, you're going to be there, that you will not let your friends walk alone. But moreover, ladies and gentlemen, even if you're going to talk about Greece wanting to become a separate country, we're going to tell you that just a concept, it's not a practical idea, right? Because Greece has never said that they want really to go back and use drachma. It was just a concept that happened in a debate in an economic world, but it's not really practical in any way. But on the second rebuttal with regard to the idea of right to religion, on the principle level, we don't think it's really a conflict there. We're going to tell you that what we see right now is more about the different values within the country. That sometimes you have just a slightly different values. That you have France that they believe in rights of expression of everyone, so that's why they have a secular state, and they believe that right to religion should be a private thing in order for everyone to have and create a real tolerance. And we think if that's the case, we still cherish that anyway. But even if you're going to say it's a real conflict between religion, we're going to tell you that it's not going to be a tangible one. It's not going to be a real clash between religious groups. We don't even think it's a problem. But moving on to the third rebuttal, on the idea of it's going to degrade the value of Nobel Peace Prize in the sense of recipients, in the sense of the Nobel Peace Prize itself. On the principle level, we don't think in any way will radicalize groups within the European Union. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look at what's going on right now. In fact, many groups in the society right now are actually starting to look and started to realize what European Union was created for. And we think that's actually good, right? Because sometimes people tend to forget why European Union was created. And we think it was created to stop war, it was created to create peace, and that's why we want to bring it back to its root. But on the practical level, we don't think people in the status quo will be crazy enough to tell the rest of the world that European Union is a corrupted state, because we don't think that's the case at all. But on the even if level, if you're going to tell me there's going to be a radicalized idea, I'm going to tell you that there's always going to be another website or another idea that tell you that European Union should accept the Nobel Peace Prize, and it's actually something to celebrate upon. We call it a free world. We call it a free market of idea, that there's always going to be a clash between ideas, but at the end of the day, people can choose what's right and what's wrong. But now let me move on to my argument. I'm going to tell you on the idea of, first of all, role of the Nobel Peace Prize is also about providing encouragement to all nations. And I'm going to talk to you about the idea of protection and improvement of human rights, democracy by the European Union helps in sustaining peace. Ma'am. Move on. Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, 8,373 deaths was the result of European failure of Srebrenica intervention. That was a clear failure of the intervention of them to reduce the army. We don't think that they should. We don't think that they deserve the Nobel Peace Prize.
Okay, first of all, we think we invade into many countries. European Union at that time, there was a humanitarian intervention. We invaded that to stop the war inside the country. So we think it was for the good cause. But all over, we're going to tell you that right now there's no war. And that's why you created European Union, right? But let me jump onto my substantive. On the first substantive, role of the Nobel Peace Prize is about providing encouragement to nations. We're going to tell you today that it's not necessary that there needs to be a significant change. Nobel Peace Prize is about your determination, it's about your commitment, and that's what it's about, right?
I mean, EU in this case has an intentional goal to promote peace and stop war, and that's why we want to award them. And we think this kind of award will encourage EU to improve even more. We understand that there's problem within EU right now. We understand that there's a slight hiccup, but we think what's going on with the Nobel Peace Prize is you're going to allow EU to actually feel better about themselves and allow them to overcome this adversity. Because what we're seeing right now is, sure, if you were going to tell me that there's a slight a disintegration value, we think this Nobel Peace Prize can actually remind all the European nations why they formed together, and that's why we think this Nobel Peace Prize actually is something good, and that's why we think the European Union deserve it very much. On the second substantive, we think there's going to be a protection improvement of human rights and democracy by the EU, and we think they help sustaining peace. Let's take a look at the European Union right now. We have Copenhagen criteria to accept countries into European Union. That they have to have a democratic values. That they have to be there has to be a protection of human rights and protection of minority. These are the values endorsed by the European Union. I would think the benefits is this, right? In the past, there were a lot of Soviet Union countries. I mean, formerly Soviet Union country. Estonia, Lithuania, Latvia, these countries came into the European Union, but the benefit is this. When you have a protection of human rights and protection of democracy, you were able to sustain democratic change in these countries so that they will not jump back to become a communist state or a Soviet state. And we think these are exclusive benefits that the EU was able to do, but more importantly, we think that's why they could achieve peace within that region. But moreover, on the second level, we think these can incentivize many countries to want to join EU even more. When we take a look at a country like Turkey, who is not part of European Union yet, but who wants to become part of European Union, that's why they're trying to change. That's why they declare that they are a secular state. That's why they're trying to protect the human rights and protect the right of minority group to have a right to religion. And these are the kind of values that we really cherish. And that's why we think by European Union and that principle, when there is a protection of human rights, what's the democratic values, you allow people to feel happier, you allow people to be empowered, and that's how you create peace and sustain peace within that region. So for those reasons, ladies and gentlemen, we don't think Nobel Peace Prize is just about achievement. We think Nobel Peace Prize is also about encouraging people, inspiring people to do more, because that's what all the recipients has been doing. And for all of those reasons, I'm very, very proud to be defending European Union. Thank you very much.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes, 24 seconds. I thank the Deputy Prime Minister, and now would like to recognize the Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, my first statement I will talk about is about the power of words vested within the Nobel Peace Prize. Firstly, I want to talk about the power vested in words are powerful, indomitable, and viral. We think that words change the world, but more importantly, these words need the recognition. And we think that these recognitions need to be followed by actions. That's why we think that, firstly, before you award anyone with the Nobel Peace Prize, we need to see tangible evidences that the words they've talked about has been achieved, that the promises they promised the world has been seen in the tangible and evident physical world, Madam Speaker. That's what opposition side stands for in today's debate. Now, firstly, the stance coming from opposition side is that we firmly believe that the Nobel Peace Prize awarded to the EU defeats the core value of it when Alfred Nobel actually created this award, and it could have been better appointed to others or restrained from giving one at all when none is deserving enough of this prize. Please sit down. A few rebuttals coming from opposition side. Firstly, we think that even if all the cases were true coming from government side, we still think that awarding the Nobel Peace Prize should be reprioritized, should be based on historical data, should be based upon historical past events. We should take the past into consideration, we should take the present, and we should take the future as well. That's what government lacks. They only work or they only function upon the idealistic values that all these organizations promises the world that they will give you. Now, secondly, upon my rebuttals, when I POI'd the Prime Minister about Obama's controversy after he has received the Nobel Peace Prize, this is how he responded. He said that, well, it takes long to solve a 2,000-year-old conflict within the Middle East. He said that Obama can't follow his words. My first response to that is that then you give the Nobel Peace Prize after the war. That's what opposition side stands for. We need to see something that is tangible, not idealistically given or idealistically thrown to the world. Second response to that is that we would give the awards, or second response to that is that you either give these rewards in terms of weightless words, which again we think that would defeat the whole purpose of giving the Nobel Peace Prize in the first place. Now, thirdly, is there actually a dire need for this award? We think that government needs to prove that EU won't survive. Because the picture that the government tries to paint is that EU won't survive without this kind of awards. It's a very dire need to keep these awards. We have to see how there's a dire need to actually keep in this possession of this award in general, and how other alternatives or how other individuals are not more deserving than the EU's. Please sit down. I'll take you after my rebuttals. Now, on the fourth point about Pon's EU values, well, we're not against the dedication to democratize countries. We actually think that's a good thing. But again, what opposition side stands for is to reprioritize the awards or the selections that the Nobel Peace Prize or the Norwegian Council chooses to give the awards to. Now, on the fifth thing, we think that they fail to engage on the ideas of the EU duty. They're saying that you're giving an award to people. It's like simply saying that I will give a human a reward because their heart beats. The core value of the EU, when they first established their unionship, is to promote peace and to promote unity within the EU country. That's the very duty of it. So the fact that you are awarding something that they should have already done and show to the world, we don't think that is a proper use of the award in the first place. Your POI.
Sir, we think the European Union achieved more than just peace, right? That's why you can create economic integration, economic benefits. Now, isn't that a tangible achievement already?
Ma'am, I thank you for pointing that out, because in my characterizations, I'll tell you why most of the things you say are ignorant statements that you choose to ignore certain facts not presented in today's debate. Again, we saw and know for a fact that firstly, NATO was the only organization that took affirmative action when conflicts arise in Bosnia and Eastern Europe, not the EU. When the USA and NATO went into Yugoslavia to deal with the small genocides in the 1990s, that was the USA and the NATO's collaboration working hand in hand. Please sit down. Not the EU again. Thirdly, how the EU left the burqa issue in France undealt with, we don't think that is a proper way to deal with peace. That is not a proper way how you foster peace. When you promise the world you will develop peace, you will go for the progression of peace. With these characterizations, we don't think that the ignorance from government side can ever stand or tolerate it in today's debate. Please sit down. Is this the award-winning Nobel Prize we should actually commend on? Well, sure, they've done good things. But the past must not be forgetting, nor the present, or even the future. That is why we need to see tangible proofs first, and we also have to take into account what has happened in the past. Just 2 days ago, a protest in Portugal was calling for the resignation of ministers. We don't think this is a very hospitable environment when they claim that it's such a peaceful area to live in, where economic tension rises everywhere within these Europe countries, right? The moment they say this, or the moment they concede that it is actual, that EU is actually in the state of peace, we think that their peace means violence and unrest and national tensions. The bottom line is that the Norwegian Council needs to be prioritized. I'll talk to you about two things: how these undervalued citizens are taking, how the EU is stealing the spotlight from undervalued citizens. Because firstly, we have to look at the nominees of these people. The EU is currently receiving a 24/7-hour recognition from the world on the status quo. Everything they do will instantly be showed on the news. Well, what about people who don't get recognized? What about this Russian female rights activist nominated the 4th time in the EU in the Nobel Prize nomination? These kinds of peoples are those peoples who can actually potentially progress peace in the world, who actually needs the recognition that the Nobel Peace Prize is vested with. Madam Speaker, we believe that we value the powers that the Nobel Peace Prize is vested with. We believe that these priorities coming from the Norwegian Council should be reprioritized. The mentality of giving this awards to someone who give weightless words and no tangible proofs should be reprioritized and should be rethinked about. So with all these reasons, we think that the opposition case stands. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 6 minutes, 57 seconds. A quick reminder for debaters, please refrain from offering POI before the official bell. I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition and now would like to invite the government whip to conclude the government's case.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Okay. It is my duty as an activist to make sure that minorities' voices are heard and their rights are fulfilled by the government. Why is it so wrong if I fulfill that particular duty and suddenly I'm not allowed to gain that particular Nobel Peace Prize? We think what opposition side believes in is fundamentally flawed, because those kind of things are extremely hard to achieve, and we say that's a recognition that's worth being recognized by the society in general. So basically, I'll be talking about 2 criteria that emerge in this debate. First, I'll talk about the principal criteria, who exactly should get these Peace Prize, and secondly, on the practical criteria, I'll further analyze to you why exactly does EU deserve to get the Nobel Peace Prize right now. So first of all, let's talk about the principal criteria. Before I move on to the whole, principal idea, what exactly does Nobel Peace Prize stand for? The idea is this, right? Nobel Peace Prize is there in order for individuals within the society, the whole world, to recognize and further support those people, those individuals, or those institutions who are aligned with Alfred Nobel's will, which is, essentially speaking, to see peace within a society, in which we set a criteria as well, right? Firstly, that they promote the idea of fraternity, and secondly, that they promote the idea of peace congress. I'll further analyze to you in my second class how exactly did EU practically, tangibly made sure that those criteria are being met. But then even if those promoting peace is still in its progress, we say the Nobel Peace Prize already recognizes those efforts, right? Because essentially speaking, Aung San Suu Kyi, Liu Xiaobao, UN, the IAEA, or the IPCC all were in the progress of reaching their ultimate goal. No one told them that they do not deserve to get this prize just because they failed in certain area. We say that the opposition stands that you must be able to score 100 out of 100 in order to receive this prize is fundamentally wrong. It's a gross recognition of, it's a gross ignorance towards the efforts they're putting in. So then let's talk about firstly the idea of result delivery, right? Firstly, we told you already that EU already has created a lot of results. If you would say that 60 years, no thank you sir, of stopping war is not a tangible result, I question them, what would be a tangible result within a society, Madam Speaker? Then even if it's not true, even if EU was not able to reach their goal in general, we say that they already made a principal concession by saying that they are okay with Aung San Suu Kyi's receiving that particular prize, because we say in the year 1991, where Aung San Suu Kyi received Nobel Prize, she was not able to promote massive democracy within Burma itself. We say that that's a big
Sir.
principal concession, no thank you, ma'am, that they made, and on this ground, we already taken this debate. And secondly, we talk about the continuous effort in which people are putting in, that it's something the Nobel Peace Prize must recognize. Because EU, ultimately we say that even under status quo, EU is continuously trying to expand, trying to integrate other countries. What does it mean? It means that they want to bring further stability and further changes in oppressive regimes, for example. Turkey was a great example, to be honest. Turkey has human rights, gross infringement of human rights, and EU is trying to integrate them in order for them to meet the Copenhagen criteria and change that particular law.
Sir.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Ultimately, they never told us why exactly is EU lacking on this idea. But even if they are, means we say even if EU is lacking on this continuous progress, we say the mass majority of the past recipients are also were still in the stages of reaching that goal. And we say if they reject EU at this point, we say they reject the identity of Nobel Peace Prize altogether. No, thank you, sir. But lastly, let's talk about this whole idea of people should not be rewarded for their duty/job. We say that ultimately, if I am a debater here and I am giving you a whip speech to make sure this debate is crystal clear, I am not. Why exactly am I not entitled? Because I'm simply fulfilling my duty, right? Why exactly am I not entitled to receive the grand champion position? We think
on that point, sir.
Thank you, sir and ma'am. We think there's a fundamentally flawed logic, and we say ultimately, and even if they're okay, even if their analysis were true, Aung San Suu Kyi was a politician. It means she has to represent the will of the people, and if she was indeed representing the will of the people in 1991, and that is something the Nobel Peace Prize did recognize. We say their analysis on duty is something fundamentally flawed. Yes, sir.
Sir, if you believe that individuals should get globally recognized for their achievements, then why would you waste the value of a prize on an entity that will automatically be recognized for achievements anyway?
Okay, there were 231 nominees for this 2012, right? The fact is that if you are going to say, if one particular guy, for example, the Moscow Radio, get this Nobel Peace Prize, ultimately other people are all going to not be recognized at the end of the day. We say that's a fundamentally flawed logic, right? Because if that's true, even you kick out EU and you nominate someone else, the rest 230 nominees would not get recognized. You're not going to do anything. But we say further that if you are nominated, it's already a massive recognition of your idea already at the end of the day, right? Because ultimately you are being showed what exactly you have done in the past for you to be nominated. There is already recognition. We don't think that point of recognition stands. Secondly, let's talk about the practical criteria, and now employ news criteria. Firstly, talk about the past, present, and future. Let's go on it one by one. In the past, 60 years without war. Let me remind you again. No, thank you, sir and ma'am. And then there's also far less human rights infringement within countries within EU. In Latvia, for example, in the year 2002, their death penalty was completely abolished. And not only that, they also have massive common economic growth, massive integration. They also have the platform for you in which to talk to make sure the dispute resolution is actually there. We say, Madam Speaker, that ultimately in the past they have fulfilled. If they would say that 60 years of no war is a total, total nonsense, then we have a problem with what exactly their definition of past accomplishment is. And even if they like to bring up Bosnia and say, it was NATO and US, let me remind you that NATO is kind of, led by EU. So essentially, it was something EU did, and ultimately they saved lives. Secondly, let's talk about the present. I assume they're talking about the economic situation, the religious problems, or the nationalistic protests within EU itself. We say firstly that ultimately the economic issue and peacekeeping issue is something fundamentally different, because when you are trying to keep peace, you employ certain strategies. But then when this kind of economic problem occurs, it's something not because you're unable to keep peace, but because some other parts of market or some other parts of the global finance failed. We don't think there is a link between these problems. But even if there is, that ultimately there was some problem existing, we say that the ability of EU to make sure that war does not happen is something totally worth it. Thirdly, let's talk about this whole idea of future chances. And then ultimately, we already told you how exactly granting them this EU Peace Prize will make sure that they further make sure that peace is going to be there, change is going to be there, and they never tackled on Pond's analysis. We say, Madam Chair, that ultimately EU does deserve it.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes, 34 seconds. I thank the government whip and now would like to call on the opposition whip to conclude the opposition's case.
$8,373 deaths was the result of the European failure of Srebrenica intervention when the country itself is only located at the backyard of the European continent. We don't think that this kind of historical failure should be forgotten once the European Union is granted the reward for its achievement to fail to intervene. The prize comes at the moment of violence and tension on the streets of many European capitals as a young generation endures years of hardship and high unemployment. We don't think that the historical fault, the misplacement credibility of achievement should actually justify the failure that still has shown no sign of improving or actually come up with the strategic solution in the near future. But not only that, we also recognize that the imbalance of power strains relation between the member states still suffocates small countries of its membership from being equally recognized to the big country members. We don't think that their unity is should actually be recognized in this case. But not only that, we would like to argue that this would not bring further domestic peace among the European Union, but we also argue that it will not bring any further peace to the global stage. But before I move on, some rebuttals. First of all, they're talking about the idea of state being secular because they want to further promote democracy. But we think that they're actually stripped away or they actually devalue certain religions just because they claim that those religions are actually the threat to tourists, just because they claim that those burghers are actually the mean that tourists use to disguise themselves. We think that France should even respect this kind of value of other countries and show the appreciation to further promote democracy, to appreciate the other cultural values that France has long neglected. But not only that, we argue that once the Nobel Peace Prize is given to this kind to the EU itself, we don't think that the 60-year achievement actually justifies this case, because we see that under status quo these countries are actually still suffering, because we've seen that Germany has been suppressing the PIGS country. They're telling these countries that you have failed over time and over time. We would not want to bail out over and over again. They have even considered to kick these countries out. They have not even showed the signs of coming to conclusion of the solution. We don't think that they're ready for today. But before I move on to my clash points, which I will answer to you in today's debate, why granting the Nobel Peace Prize Award to the European Union brings harm that outweighs the benefits. Yes.
If you think countries like France are that ignorant and that discriminatory, can you please tell me why, without joining the European Union, they'll somehow integrate better and they'll somehow hate each other less?
Ma'am, We've seen the pending status of Turkey since 2005. We've seen that the European members actually try to avoid accepting the major Muslim countries. We accept that under status quo, Turkey is actually a secular country, but at the same time, we see that most of the majority of those members in the countries is still Muslim, and the people in France, we've seen that the headline they've been criticizing the God of Muslim. We've seen that those small countries cannot even tackle bad France because they're still within the umbrella of European Union. We don't think that that should be the case, that you should actually bring up this, because they're actually using their power to exploit other small countries. Moving on to my first class point, why granting the Nobel Peace Prize award to the European Union brings harm that outweighs benefit. First, we recognize that the Norwegian Nobel committees should not award to a recipient with the intention to encourage the awardee to work for peace rather than to award an accomplishment. Why is this harmful to European Union? Because we recognize that it shows that the prize was obtained to boost the European Union's political position. We understand that it motivates the European Union to further integrate, and it motivates the European Union to further sticking together. But we think that this indicates the incapability of EU to maintain and pursue their will of being committed, because it requires an additional factor in order for them to actually sticking together. But also B, we think that the unacceptance of a particular group of European members of the award further proves that even the members themselves disagree with the so-called peace. This actually shows the obvious disagreement to the award, and it even shows that the union itself is not fully unified yet. But not only that, why is it so harmful to the global peace community? Because we recognize that it highlights that European Union's historical failures are ought to be forgotten. We have already told you times over times that this actually stirs up an unacceptable climate for international arena. There has been debates over why NATO should deserve this peace prize instead of EU. We have heard why Svetlana, the Russian human rights activist, should actually deserve this kind of award when she has already submitted her nomination for 4 years consecutively. We don't think that. We think that the EU's value of being granted this kind of awards actually trumps over the motivation and inspiration of this committee to grow. Why? Because B, we think that because we recognize that it demotivates young generation to step into the field that is no longer important to the global recognition unless these people are being backed up by the politics. We think that the idea that it sends the message to the European Union when they are granted this kind of award that they have to secure what they have already achieved is actually weakens the union itself. But not only that, why is it so harmful to the Nobel Peace Prize community? Because we think that it's a misplacement of credibility. We have spoken to speakers that EU participated in political integration, that we accept that fact, but we also want to recognize that NATO took the leader role in democratizing, integrating Western and Eastern Europe together. This is a misplacement of credibility, which is unjustified to the will of the Nobel Peace Prize. But not only that, we're talking about B, while European Union is taking its eye off the balls to maintain peace at a global stage. We see that UK and France itself is still possessing nuclear weapons. This is a threat to global peace. We don't think that this kind of action, or we don't think that this kind of countries should represent the global peace. But not only that, we also see that the European Union fails to expand peace across the European continent because it takes time over time. It brings the prestigious union and takes time over time to accept more members and expand its union. We firmly believe that European dream has not delivered and shows no sign of delivering, and thus granting Nobel Peace Prize comes with the risk of degrading its value and highlights the incompetence of the European Union. We think that this would degrade the value of Nobel Peace Prize. We don't think that the government should stand in this debate. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 7 minutes 25 seconds. I thank the opposition whip and now would like to invite the opposition reply speaker.
Ladies and gentlemen, again, government ignores our historical events, the events we have presented to you, that they have not shown, that has proven to be events that have not brought peace to the European Union, that has not shown that European Union actually fosters peace as they have characterized that. So firstly, they claim that the EU actually adopts peace in their country. Again, with all these the given examples, we don't think that stands. Secondly, government loves to see a world of weightless ideas and false promises. Ladies and gentlemen, that's what they're proposing to you. They think that if I just grab a microphone and talk for 7 minutes about solving world violence, then I deserve the Nobel Peace Prize without actual tangible evidence that I can actually do so. That's what the world that government lives in, ladies and gentlemen. So now the concern comes to this. Opposition would love to do so, but again, we have to see these tangible evidences first before you actually hand this Nobel Peace Prize to people. Because very importantly, we think that the value of Nobel Peace Prize should be reprioritized to those that actually matter, that those that actually can potentially solve the things they have said, or those that actually solve those things. As I've talked about the Russian activist that was nominated the 4th time in the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, thirdly, we think that there are zero engagement on how the spotlight is being robbed from the ones who actually needs it. So, because firstly, EU receives a 24/7 hour attention. So, by that means, they can promote peace through any time or any elements or any sources available with this kind of global reception and this kind of global attention. Now, why does this undermine these underdogs, or why does this steal the spotlight from these underdogs or these people who actually needs the recognition? Because at best, these people are only worth a local newspaper first page, or not even the first page, right? It simply does not suffice, as a local newspaper simply does not suffice the magnitude of change that these individuals, these peace advocate individuals, are rooting for, or these people that have actually made changes within their countries, Madam Speaker. Now, fourthly, I want to talk about, will the European Union really approach to world peace advocation after they have received the Nobel Peace Prize? Or will the award money from the EU, from the Nobel Peace Prize, will be used to cover their debt in this case? Right? That is a burden of proof that government fails to prove to you in this debate, and we think it's very important for them to do so too. Now, in a comparison between the EU and Aung San Suu Kyi, we think that the comparison is very vital to this debate because firstly, EU did not go under decades of house arrest. EU creates a union, they make conflicts, but then they wait for the US, the NATO, to fly by and drop a magical package that eventually solves everything. Now, we don't think that ever shows the EU's capability to solve these conflicts in the first place. Now, when compared to Aung San Suu Kyi, while Aung San Suu Kyi suffered under public scrutiny and house arrest for decades, she still stands for her beliefs, making people follow her words with her beliefs and her dedication and devotion. We think that's the value in the Nobel Peace Prize, and that's the value that is vested within the Nobel Peace Prize. We have to show the world that these kinds of values cannot be randomly thrown to weightless words or people or groups or organizations that have not shown the world the tangible results, the tangible evidence that the words they have actually promised to the world is not a lie and they can actually do so. If you go with a government side, you're going with an avalanche of lies, and this motion comes crashing down. If you want to see the preservation of the Nobel Peace Prize value and preserve it and prevail it so that this, the value of it stands for those who actually needs it, then go with opposition side. Thank you.
The speaker spoke for 4 minutes, 5 seconds. I thank the opposition reply and now would like to invite the government reply speaker to close the debate.
Hello. If there was going to be someone who is ignorant in today's debate, we think that really falls on opposition side. Let's take a look at EU policy. If you're going to talk about secular state in France, we think that was a protection of minority rights. To make sure that minority in France are protected from any kinds of intolerant act from the rest of the society simply because you have that stereotype against Muslim. So that's why you ban wearing of that's why you ban the wearing of religious symbol in some certain place in public area. So ladies and gentlemen, we think that's in lining with the principle of the Copenhagen criteria, that you allow nations and you force EU members to actually protect human rights and pretty much minority rights as well. But now let me get on to the main question I have in today's debate, right? What really is the Nobel Peace Prize? Opposition told you this random argument that you need to have a tangible achievement. So we clearly respond to you that the tangible achievement is already there when you did stop war. But moreover, we told you again that there is an economic integration, protection of human rights, democratization within many countries, and actually incentivize many countries to become more democratic. We call that achievement. But even if you don't call that achievement, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to ask you, or we're going to tell you again that Nobel Peace Prize is not just about tangible achievement. Nobel Peace Prize is about 60 years of commitment, 60 years of belief that you can join as a union. And that's why we think Europeans today very much deserve that right. But that's when opposition side never engage with us. But on the second question, does offering these Nobel Peace Prize to European Union really harm the principle of Nobel Peace values? Ladies and gentlemen, we don't think so. They did concede to us that Aung San Suu Kyi deserved to get it, and then they have that rationalization that these Aung San Suu Kyi fought hard for it. How can you possibly say European Union did not fight hard to become the European Union today? We think European Union tried its best to actually join the differences, bridge the gap between many countries and form a region. And that's why we really value that commitment a lot. But now our question is this: what's so different about Aung San Suu Kyi and European Union? And they never really clarify. But I'll tell you more in my other question. But now let me move on to the next question. Do EU desperately need this? This was a question raised by opposition side. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we don't think it's that EU desperately needed, but we think EU rightfully deserved it. Simply because they did show something, they did show commitment, and that's why they deserve that. That's why they deserve the award. But more importantly, if they want to talk about historic part so much, ladies and gentlemen, not everyone in the world is perfect. We also understand that EU is not perfect. We also understand that EU might have gone through some hiccups, some adversity, but at the end of the day, European Union stayed together. But at the end of the day, in a holistic picture, you saw more benefits more than harm. So that's why we think if that was the case, we think European Union really deserve it, and award is really right for that, for the European Union. But opposition side has this interesting argument that they told you that, wait, what about the underdogs? They're not going to get any recognitions. First of all, we already told you that there is a rule right now since the Prime Minister's speech that institution or individual can be recognized. Are you telling me that IAEA, United Nations, or Amnesty International, these sorts of organizations should not have been recognized at all simply because they're a supranational organization who are always going to overshine the rest of the society or the rest of the underdog? We don't think so. But moreover, ladies and gentlemen, Motoki already told you that even if EU do not take this, there's so many nominees out there that at the end of the day you cannot recognize everyone. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we don't think it's about that. Nobel Peace Prize is probably the most prestigious award you can accept ever. And we think when EU did show the commitment, they pretty much deserve that. So for all those reasons, Chulalongkorn University, thank you for this debate. Thank you very much.